I hope not this, but that's okay.
What's the big issue in your mind? The number one issue.
Well, I think, you know, the issue that, you probably set me up for this because I think you know the answer, and it's self-serving. Energy.
Nah.
Energy and greenhouse gas emissions. If you had to take one thing that's really, you know, everybody's future is depending on what we do about it.
We're about to lose 300 megawatts of power. AES is up for sale. Emerson is empty. We have a golden opportunity, if energy is it, to transform the county and to become self-sufficient in energy. That's my preoccupation, you know, but I wasn't fishing for that.
Well,
if it was biking trails, I would have done something else. I would have accepted that.
Well, all of, you know, you would have accepted, but you still would have pursued.
Kind of nudge you back.
And if you look at all of these things, I mean, again, they all work together.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a package. You can't get one without the other, to be honest. And when you get one, you're a long ways toward getting the other. So we are comprehensive planners. I mean, we look at the connections, the relations between these things. We don't tend to look at them in isolation and say one is the thing. But they, you know, certainly this is something that's runs through all of these issues that we talk about.
I mean, like in Detroit, it's urban crime. That's you know, everything's crime. You know, here it's education, but how do you?
I guess the other thing, it's not losing what we have.
Well,
a lot of places don't have anything to lose. They're just, everything is up from there, wherever they're at. Here we've got a lot at stake because we have a wonderful place, and everybody appreciates that. So that's.
We've lost 1,000 jobs since Emerson was at its peak, and the gun company's gone.
Well,
it's gone.
The economy's transforming. I mean,
yeah.
Manufacturing in New York State, except for small-scale, specialized stuff, and that's what we're seeing happening. That is continuing to happen here. Some companies that are technologically oriented are very successful here, still. So I wouldn't write it off. But heavy industry, I wouldn't see that as the future. But that's just me, so I don't really know.
In terms of the future and in terms of economic development, it seems like a lot of these things are pointing to the fact that, especially the student housing issue, is like we've got this monoculture here. And I think some of the things we're setting up in the county might be setting us up very well to capitalize on whole new demographics and whole new industries. And I'm actually thinking about the elder industry, if we look at it that way. Retirees wanting to get out of Florida where there's hurricanes, and Georgia where there's heat and no water, and Arizona and all that sort of thing. And is there any are there any incentives to maybe looking at these new demographics and the entrepreneurs and the creative class and keeping them here, and maybe incentivizing those types of folks locating in the development focus areas? Is there a coordinated county policy or incentive policy that would get people to locate in those areas to get the density to happen faster, which I see as a problem?
Well, there is a county industrial development agency density policy for downtown Ithaca, and they've talked about possibly extending that to other areas. So there could be a tax policy that would support that. I think there's plenty of people in the real estate business that are out selling this community when they have an opportunity to do it. And if they had the product that people were looking for, they might be able to do a better job with it. So I think those are all, I mean, I think the demographics are real. Not only is it an opportunity, it may just be something we have to deal with because it's already happening as we speak. We hear stories all the time about exactly what you're talking about. When we talked at our County Planning Advisory Board recently about what's maybe the best way to sell development focus areas, well, one is our demographics say we need it for the aging population, besides other people wanting to come here in that age group. And two, our workforce strategy says we need to keep young people here. And what we offer, both of those demographics, isn't everything it could be right now. So that could be the driver for a lot of this, those two things. Gay, and then...
I just wanted to insert the idea, one of the reasons I had suggested the title that we have tonight, this theme of resiliency, reflecting on your question, of what keeps Ed up at night, that when we look at the systems level, we really need to be thinking about what are the vulnerabilities in the system, you know, what is tilting or tipping the system into a new reality, and that's where I agree that energy becomes, you know, the problematic question that we need to be designing for, where are the houses, where are the jobs, where's the energy actually going to be produced, and you know how to downsize and right-size that energy footprint, and then food is right on its heels.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Yeah, actually following up on that and what Katie mentioned with that one-stop web portal. I work at a library at Cornell, and so I think about information a lot, and I've been looking at a lot of the stuff that's talked here. And basically it's about solving problems. It's about having timely and relevant information, and none of us have enough time to pull in as much data as out there. And I'd like to just suggest that we think a little bit broader rather than just a portal that gathers information. It actually can kind of parse it and give you what you need specifically, and the technology is already out there, and also can support collaboration. The comprehensive plan talked about collaboration being key to innovation. So getting the right bits of information to innovate, and that's what entrepreneurship is all about. And there's some great work going on out there. There's two reports, one from the Rockefeller Foundation. Let me just pull up these titles here. The Future of Cities, Information and Inclusion. Some pretty cutting-edge, far-reaching things. Basically trying to look 10 years into the future, the role that information is going to play in all of these transformations. And we have a lot of smart people here to use that for the use. The other thing that I would recommend is the Knight Foundation came out with a report, Informing Communities, Sustaining Democracy in the Digital Age. And they're really pushing this concept of online community hubs to support civic engagement and problem solving. So anyway, anyone who would
the
like
Knight Foundation?
The Knight Foundation, yeah. I'm going to post something to the sustainable comments.
That'd be great if we could get those reps.
But I think
Connections to those.
I'd really like to hear from other people about what kinds of information barriers you face, because really you can't fix it. One person can't fix it. We all have to kind of solve problems at our level. And, one of the people I look to, Wendell Berry, is actually inspired me a lot. He has this concept of solving for pattern. And that is every solution needs to solve multiple problems at the same time, not just one. So, for instance, domestic energy production, we're kind of taking one-shot approaches to that. And then any solution shouldn't create more problems, of course. So what I'm looking at is information as being a solution that creates more solutions.
I would love it if you would share with me your contact information. You can have an early look at this website, and you clearly have thought about this a lot. It'd be great to get your input.
Yeah, I'd love to actually try to break out some people here who are interested in that, maybe get a focus group or something going.
Fabulous.
I've got support to develop some grant proposals with the library, and we have some technology that we could use to kind of build on. So yeah, I'll definitely follow up.
Okay, are we getting close to the end of time, or do we have time for a few more?
I think we can do a few more.
Okay. The end of time. I didn't mean the end of time. I'm not one of those, believe me. I don't believe in the end of time.
Don't waste this time.
I wouldn't be doing planning if I believed. Yes,
Well,
okay.
And speaking about how whatever solution you come up with shouldn't create another, whenever density is increased, it's going to have some kind of an impact on the ecology of the area as well. How are you going to keep the ecology in balance and not totally destroy it if you're building a lot of housing units, and how can you maintain that quality? Is there a plan in place that's going to work in conjunction with density and how it's going to be achieved, or hasn't that been looked into yet?
Well, first of all, I would say the density is in some very limited areas. You know, if you looked at the maps, it doesn't impact 90% of the land area of the county, or maybe more than that.
It's need to go back.
Right. So, even within these circles, we're talking about only some of those being developed. And we would still want good design and ecologically sensitive design. For example, maintaining stream buffers in these areas. That's what makes these places livable communities, by maintaining key aspects of the natural environment, integrating it with the living environment. It can be done. It takes creativity, and but I think we have enough creativity in this community to be able to accomplish that. Yes?
The other topic that you didn't approach is the gas drilling. What's going to happen in Tompkins County with that?
Well,
Repeat the question, please.
Gas
Gas
drilling.
drilling.
What will happen with gas drilling? We're very concerned about it. We submitted a lot of comments to the DEC about it. The simplest way I can state it is it's the unplanned industrialization of our rural landscape. That's like as contrary to planning as you can get. And so a lot of communities are working to figure out how they can bring some perspective to this if it does come, and have some local influence about how it happens. There's still a big question about whether it should happen.
Is there any plan on the county level, or is that up to the different?
Tompkins County
communities?
Council of Governments has a task force working on it. The Park Foundation supplied funding for us to provide a staff support person for that effort. So there are a lot of people working on it, and the county is engaged in it, yes.
And in general, they try to prevent it, or what's the?
Well, we don't know that we can prevent it. Some municipalities are toying with that idea. We certainly don't think it should go forward without a lot of questions being answered that so far have not been answered satisfactorily. And I guess that's the best way I can put it for right now, where we're at. Dwight?
Just a comment. I think that the comprehensive plan and the county's development strategy does need to include a real interface with the transportation strategy. That just saying that, well, the Tompkins County Transportation Council has a transportation plan, we're not well meshing with the interface between the built environment and transportation well. I kind of see a big gap there, and I also see that now there are approaches advanced in the transportation plan, the community transportation planning practices, which has a much closer integration of the two, and I think that's something that we ought to have a conversation about and incorporate, because you end up at this line where it doesn't belong in a transportation plan, but I think it should really be in a comprehensive in the county's sustainable development plan, and we have to find a way to really marry that and to reflect the diversity of new services and how they relate to like where housing is and places where people who live in neighborhoods are able to get services and access services well. So I just offer that I'm seeing a pretty big gap. And
Well, we're
really
right
need
next
to
door to
close it.
ITCTC, as you know, and we
I
talk
know,
every day,
but
so.
that isn't.
Doesn't mean there isn't more that we can do. I agree. I agree. There's emerging issues all the time, and I think that's a lot of what you're getting at.
One more question,
Tony?
please.